You're listening to The Parenting Space, a podcast brought to you by parents and practitioners from the South London and Maudsley NHS Foundation Trust. A podcast where you can hear us discuss and debate issues around parenting and mental well-being. Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Parenting Space. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Camille, who's joined us to discuss the topic of communication as a parent and the impact that that can have on our families. Hello, Camille.
Hi, good morning, Julia.
Are you able to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Camille. I have a daughter now, she's 10 years old. And I've trained 9 years ago to become a parent group leader. And at that time, she was really little. She was not even 2 years old yet.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know that when we had sort of initial conversations about coming onto this podcast, quite quickly you'd mentioned that communication felt really important to you and something you'd like to share and talk more about. What sort of drew you towards this interesting topic?
I think communication, in fact, is really being connected, no? And I always talk about connected parenting because I feel like when you are able to understand your children, their emotions, what they are going through, and also your family members or friends in general, when you are able to be connected to others, then, well, that's why we communicate between each other.
And to clarify, Camille, when you talk about communication, are you thinking mainly about how you communicate with your partner, or are you thinking about the family as a whole or your child?
We focus on the communication with our children, but also those concepts and strategies are meant to be used with everybody, your friends, your neighbor, the way you communicate in general with people, because I think we can do better.
And how do you do that?
With my husband, we started doing weekly check-ins with each other and what went well this week, what was difficult for me, where can I help you more, what am I expecting more, and also our needs are evolving and changing, no? And so we were doing that, and we're still doing that every week, and just talking about us, not our child. We try not to talk about her, but us as a couple and the way we are evolving and growing together. And with my daughter, it's the same every day. She knows after school, well, I go for her, so we have time to talk at bedtime also. And my strategy with her, because I want to be connected with her and I want her to tell me everything. I didn't want to have a child that would be afraid of our reactions. And even if sometimes I don't agree with her, but I'm always there, like asking how was her day. And I try to really answer and not react, but try to stay calm and really listen until she's finished her sentences to talk.
So what you're saying there is really focusing on taking a moment to pause, being less emotionally reactive, giving your child the time and the space to really say everything that they need to say. Such wonderful tips for all of us. If you were to give parents one piece of advice about improving communication in the home, what would be kind of your standout bit of advice?
I think that it's important to understand that on the long run, we're going to have conflicts, disagreements, and it's natural and it's healthy if it's contained, you know. So I think it's important to have those conversations, but also and to model our children that we are able to compromise and to find some kind of solution and to find a way where everybody is satisfied with the outcome. There is this technique we use in our parenting groups that works really well, but not many people know about it, and we call it the I statement. It's a 4-part message. So we would say, I feel, when you, because, how can you help me? When I was introduced with this technique, I was like, oh, interesting. Like I have to talk about myself all the time, showing vulnerability, talking about my feelings, etc. But when you do that, and I understood, and I found it was magical / fantastic. And I think it's going to be easier to manage your conflicts if you use this kind of technique, because you're talking about yourself. And what we do when we usually say, you've done this, you've done that, what's wrong with you? We create resistance. And so the other people or person, they don't want to be part of a conversation where you are starting it by blaming them. So they just want to run away and go somewhere else. So I don't get what I want. When I use the I message, then other people are like, oh, she's talking about what's going on in her head, and they can understand us better. And so then we can find some understanding together, and we can work together as a team. And I think when we have a conflict or disagreement, sit next to each other as a team again, like we are working with the same goal in life. It's to be good together and make it work.
It's so interesting what you say about putting that emphasis on the I, on your feelings and how you're feeling, how what someone is doing is making you feel. Because I think quite often we're used to constructing sentences starting with you're doing this or stop doing this. And it really takes that sort of the attacking flavor out of the sentence. And I wonder if that does just help someone to really hear you and help you to be heard. So I think that's a lovely kind of aspect of using this tip, the I statements. And thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you for sharing all your tips and advice today for improving communication in the home. It's been wonderful to have you. And we really hope to have you back, Camille. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to The Parenting Space, a podcast brought to you by the CAMHS team at South London and Maudsley NHS Foundation Trust. If you need support after today's discussion in the podcast, please talk to someone that you trust, or follow the links in the description to get general advice and support. The Parenting Space is available on all podcast platforms. If you'd like to hear more discussions like this, subscribe to our channel and you'll receive a notification every time we release a new episode. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, let us know your thoughts over on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. You can find us at theparentingspace_official.